Hello, welcome in. Let me know in the chat if you are able to hear me. Let's start there. Let me know if you're able to hear me. I'm going to share my screen. Audio's good. Awesome. Love it. Apologies for the late start. I thought that one of the wonderful team members will be joining me, and then I remembered that they told me to start it, not them. So I was in the waiting room just like the rest of you guys, and I'm like, okay, when is this thing gonna get started? And then I thought, hello, you're supposed to be starting it. So thank you all for waiting. I know we have a bit of a late start, so I'm just gonna jump right in, just to make sure that we have some time for Q&A at the end. And I'm happy to stay like an extra 5 to 10 minutes to ensure that your questions get answered. So, let me make sure we are recording. Okay, we are good. Okay, so how to set your rates and start landing paid brand partnerships. So before we get started, I always say this kind reminder, turn off any distractions, close some of those tabs, hit do not disturb on your phone. That's one of my favorite features personally. Close the door, put your AirPods in, whatever you need to do to make sure you are tuned in. I'm going to share about 40 minutes of high value content. So if you commit to this, it will make a huge difference for you. A quick note on the Q&A. For those who are here live, of course, we'll have Q&A at the end. I'll stop a few times throughout, of course, just to make sure you're not left confused at the end. I want to make sure we're all following along and we're all understanding as I go. I will be honest, this presentation in terms of slides is a lot more text heavy than the presentations that I usually do. And that's simply because we're going to be talking a lot about numbers today. We're talking about money. And I tend to find that when we speak about numbers, people like to see a visual. So don't feel overwhelmed when I go through some of these slides and you're like, oh my goodness, like it's very text heavy. That's simply because I want you to have a visual. And in terms of the replay, it will be available in Wonderful's replay section. And it's lifetime access. So you can always feel free to come back to this, watch the replay. So for this first time, I just recommend sitting back, listening in. Feel free to engage with me in the chat box. I will be watching throughout. Also, let me know where you're tuning in from. I am currently in Tampa, Florida. This is where I was raised. Usually I love to ask, where are you tuning in from towards the beginning? But of course, since we're having a bit of a late start, I just want to jump right in. But always curious to know where you're tuning in from. And if you are tuning in from a lovely travel destination, feel free to brag in the comments and we are going to live vicariously through you. So yes, Q&A at the end. I'll stop a few times throughout. The replay will be available. And then for those who are watching the replay, you can feel free to email me or DM me with any of the questions that you have about the class. And that's simply, of course, because you weren't able to make it here with us live. Alrighty. So, okay, Monterey, California. Love it. New York, Indianapolis, Chicago. Okay, so we have people from the West Coast to the East Coast. Tuscan. What else? Yeah, feel free to keep dropping your cities. So quick thing, share this on Instagram and feel free to tag us, both Travel with Tinsley and Wonderful Creators. I tell this with my creator students all the time. Your community loves seeing what you're working on behind the scenes. Like anything that you can share behind the scenes to your followers, they're all over it like white on rice. So feel free to show them what you're up to, what you're learning more about to further grow your business. This is how you can grow a deeper relationship with them, and don't be afraid to hide any of the behind the scenes. Okay, so I want to do just a quick intro if you're new to me and you've never attended one of my workshops before. I am Tinsley. I am a travel marketing strategist, influencer coach, content creator, and digital nomad. Well, actually, I'll probably take out the digital nomad part. Taking a bit of a break right now. I'm a little bit overwhelmed with travel. If you feel me, let me know in the comments too. um, but for the most part, for the past 6 to 5 years, I've worked in the travel and tourism industry in three ways: working with travel brands as a creator, managing travel brand campaigns as a strategist, and then helping influencers work with brands as a coach. So, all that to say, I've worked with brands as a creator. I've worked on the brand side and helped brands work with creators on their campaigns. And I've worked with creators just like you, helping you work with brands. So some travel brand campaigns I've worked on include Montage Hotels and Resorts, Tradewind Aviation, Visit Panama, the Tourism Board of New York State, and that's just to name a few. Some amazing wins that my influencer and creator clients have achieved include landing their first hotel collab, being invited on press trips by tourism boards, and getting paid to stay at hotels. This is all of which we're talking about today. So, just a quick background. I started off as a travel blogger. Honestly, felt like a little fish in a big pond. There's just seemed to be a lot of big time travel creators. I feel like there's a lot more today, but no need to fear. That just goes to show that there's a lot more opportunity because people are becoming creators. They're starting to see that brands are working with creators and they're offering them these amazing opportunities to travel and work with them on a paid basis. Um, so I at the time I just felt like a lot of the creators that were working with brands were the ones with 100K followers. Obviously, that's not the deal today. A lot of my clients and even my first brand partnership I landed, I had less than 2K followers. I was like, "What? You want to work with me? No, this cannot be true." But yes, it was the truth. I love so much how much opportunity there is for nano and micro influencers and creators there are today. Even though I wasn't sure about how I would reach success as a vlogger, I just kept going. That's super, super important in the beginning. I know how easy it is to look at people who are on step 100 and you're maybe still at step 5 and you're really just trying to get there. The day to day can be a little bit difficult, especially mindset wise. So I encourage you to keep going because with that, I landed my first brand partnership during the pandemic. If I can land my brand partnership during a pandemic, you could land one right now. Trust me. And then I later landed my first hotel collaboration. So with that during the pandemic, it truly opened up my eyes, and I saw that a lot of travel brands we're leaning more on creators more than ever, and that was in 2020. Honestly, in 2024, I'm just amazed by literally every single travel brand that I work with. They want to work with creators. They're putting budget aside to work with creators, and it's such like a big part of their overall marketing strategy for the year because they know that the people that want to stay at their hotels and that want to visit their destinations, they are looking on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube for inspiration on these places on the places to visit. So with that, these hotels want to make sure they are being the chosen one. Why not, right? So this is the reason why they're leaning on influencers more than ever. So with that, I decided to take my skill set to the brand side. I started managing influencer marketing campaigns. And that's what I'm here doing today for you to teach you more about how to get paid to travel the world by working with brands. So a few students just like you and the results that they've achieved through working with me. This is the lovely Ayana Mills. She is a Denver-based travel creator. Just by working together, she mentioned Tinsley has helped me with developing my online brand and starting to pitch to brands as a creator. This is Alondra Flora. She is a travel and fashion creator. And just through our work together, she mentioned that working with Tinsley, I landed my first paid brand partnership. This is a lovely Cajun Danielle. She is Daniel, Cajun Daniel. She is a travel and family creator. And just through our time working together, she landed a sponsored deal with a restaurant, and her reel went viral for the first time in 2 years. So big win for her there. And then we have the lovely Mia Stoller. She is a travel creator and journalist. I also work with journalists. Um, And through our work together, she got her pitch accepted by a magazine editor, and she ended up getting paid, of course, by that magazine to write an article on the hotel. So, if you are interested in some amazing results just like that, today we are going to cover these three topics. So, we're going to talk about formulas and what's the deal with formulas in this industry. We're going to talk about, of course, how brands decide to pay creators, and then we will talk about how to set your rates. Now, I'm just going to check the chat, make sure we're all good. Hey, Kat from Toronto. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. Remember, I'm going a little bit faster just to make sure that we have time for the Q&A. Highly recommend feeling free to watch this back to take notes. I encourage you to stay with me. Feel free to message things in the chat. I'll definitely stop throughout. So, first things first, I have to mention this disclaimer because we are talking all about paid brand partnerships today. So, I have to mention to you that I am not a financial advisor. All the information I'm going to teach you today is all from my personal experience. This information is not a substitute for financial advice. I always recommend seeking advice from a professional for consulting in regards to your individual situation. So, in the Q&A section, I'm happy to give you advice in terms of my personal experience working with brands and also working for brands with creators. But just know that this overall is not a substitution for financial advice, and you should definitely consult with a professional. I just have to say these things. All right, now let's get to the juice. So, what's the deal with formula? So, I'm just going to go over three top ways that I often see creators set their rates, and I'm going to just point out the issue with these, and mainly just to bring awareness to the fact that by following these formulas, you are certainly leaving money on the table. So, hourly rates. So, some suggest setting an hourly rate, which makes sense, right? Like with regular jobs, you usually have an hourly rate. But the problem with creators, and honestly, probably the problem with a lot of regular jobs too, is that you do so much in 1 hour. So you mean to tell me, yes, it may take you an hour to make a reel. Well, maybe not a reel. It usually takes longer than that, right? Yeah, it may take you an hour to put together like a couple of stories or whatnot. But think about what all you put into behind those stories. Like maybe in one story slide you shot in one location, and then the next story slide you shot in another location. That's a lot of moving locations, probably changing outfits, searching through trending audios if you're putting audios on your reels, for example. All of that just to make $50. Not worth it. So this is why I'm against the hourly rates, because we do a lot in 1 hour as creators, and you don't want to leave money on the table here. Now let's talk about the penny per follower rule. This is probably the formula that makes me cringe the most because it just doesn't make sense. And I'm going to tell you why. So some suggest charging literally 1 penny per follower that you have. Now, if you have 1 million followers, I guess this could make sense because honestly, I've worked with creators before that have over 1 million followers. They're considered celebrities at that point in the brand world. And they do charge $10,000 for their posts. That sounds about right. But when you're a nano, meaning that you have under 10K followers, or you're a micro size creator, meaning that you're under 100K followers, you are undercharging if you're following this formula. Let's think about it. For an example, if you have 2,000 followers, that's a total of $20. $20 for what? To do all this work for brands? Not fair to you. So this is why the penny per follower rule, it makes sense. It's definitely in favor for like the bigger creators. But in terms of the ones that are just starting out, and even micro-sized creators, they're not even starting out. They've probably been in the game for a minute. It's just, it doesn't work out in your favor, and you definitely don't want to be charging brands $20. And then here's another one that I tend to see. $10 per 1,000 views. So this is mainly in terms of like reels. So for an example, if your average, so this is the average amount of views. So we're not just talking about one view, we're not talking about 1,000 views on one one reel that you've made. We're talking about the average amount of views you get on all the reels that you make. If your average is 1 million views, so 1 million views, that's viral, right? At that point, and you charge $1,000 per post, okay, that makes sense. Like $1,000 per reel, like that's normal in the brand world. But say if the Instagram algorithm changes tomorrow, and y'all know how Instagram is. Instagram always has something up its sleeve. And they're always rolling out new features. I mean, I know a big talk about the creator industry right now is about how awful the engagement is. I mean, we're not here to dog Instagram, but we're just here to keep it real, right? So if the Instagram algorithm changes tomorrow and your views go down, then what? Then you're undercharging because your views can go from I don't know, an average of 10,000 to 10 that quickly. So you may not want to follow this formula if you're not getting 1 million views on a regular basis, which most people don't, even if they have 1 million followers. So this is what's the deal with formulas. The formulas, they're cool and all. I get why creators are tempted to follow these formulas in the beginning because like you really want something cut and dry, right? You really just want like the solution to like what do I charge? Because what do I charge is like such a common question and you just wish that someone can just like tell you one formula and just get it out the way. But the truth is that it's not that simple. And when you're following formulas, you end up leaving money on the table. So that's why I'm here today to show you how much, first of all, how much are brands paying creators on the brand side so that you can actually know like, oh, maybe charging $50 for my reel is a little low. Yes, it is very low. And I don't recommend anyone here to charge $50 for a reel. I don't care if you have 10 followers. Yes, it's very low. And so you can get a sense of like, okay, well, maybe I can charge this, maybe I can charge that. So today we will go over, of course, how to set your rates, but just know that there's not a cut and dry answer. It's going to take some practice. So let's chat a little bit about how brands decide to pay creators. Well, first, let's set the scene. So this is my little storyline. Remember, just throughout probably the rest of this class, I'm going to be referencing this storyline. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So on the brand side, a public relations team at a hotel in Puerto Escondido has a meeting to discuss their goals for the upcoming quarter. So think hotel in beautiful Puerto Escondido. It's in Mexico. It's gorgeous. They want to work with creators for their upcoming quarter. A quarter is 3 months. For the quarter, the brand is looking to work with a few creators to promote their property and its amenities. So nothing too fancy here. It's not like they're opening a new restaurant or I don't know, like or they're opening the hotel in general. It's just they just want more creators to show what makes them unique out of their competitors. And then we have the creator side. There's a creator, they're based in the US. By the way, I just put based in the US just so that we can get an idea here. It doesn't matter if you're based elsewhere. The creator's based in the US. They're setting up their business goals and planning their trips for the upcoming quarter, so for the upcoming next 3 months. And the creator's looking to work with brands on a paid basis only. This creator's like, listen, I got to get these bills paid within the next 3 months, so I'm only available if you're available to pay me, period. So their goal is to land more four-figure brand deals. Four figures means 1,000 to and under 10,000. Four figures. So this is where the slides are going to get text heavy, but stick with me. You're going to see why. Because if I explain all this to you without visuals, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? So let's talk about the brand side first. On the brand side, this is what they're discussing during their marketing meetings. And I kid you not, this is the truth. This is what I listen to all day, all the time during these marketing meetings. They're talking about, all right, what deliverables do we need? Because if we have a bunch of photography images to last us into 2025, this makes no sense for us to partner with another photographer. We get that we're getting a lot of pitches from photographers, but sadly, we're just going to have to decline them for the next 3 months because we have enough stuff. What we need is maybe some short clip content. If some creators can create some reels for us or some YouTube shorts for us, then we're talking. Or maybe they're saying, you know what, we really want some more written content. We're noticing that our people tend to book with our hotel if we promote things to them on our website. They really want to see stuff on our website. So we can get a creator to just write a couple blog posts for us. It will literally seal the deal for us. So the brand is thinking about what deliverables do we need for this quarter? Why is this good for you to know? Because a lot of creators, when brands decline them, they tend to take it personally. But really, think about it from a business perspective. a um if you have a photo library to last you to 2025, would you sit here and pay another photographer to take more images of your hotel? No. So it a lot of times it has to do with what you're pitching them. That's a great opportunity for you to go back to the brand and say, are there any deliverables that you currently need right now? That's a way to turn things around instead of just dealing with their decline and saying, okay, thank you for letting me know. Now, the next thing the brand is asking, what do we have budget for? Because, I mean, okay, there are brands that like to get away with not paying creators, especially the ones who are offering you all the things. Like, they're like, okay, well, we may not be able to pay you right now, but we can offer you like free breakfast every single night for every single night that you pay, stay with us. You can offer you a couple free excursions, and we can definitely offer you a hotel stay, all free complimentary. I mean, if you plan on going to the destination anyways, it's worth it. But here we're talking about paid brand partnerships today. So that can be for another day. So they're talking about here, what budget do they have? So in this example, we're going to say the brand has about $5,000 per quarter. That's really small. But unfortunately, some brands do have that budget. $5,000 per quarter. So, with the goal to partner with at least 3 creators. So, we want to partner with at least 3 creators. So, we need to figure out how we can stretch this small $5,000 budget to get enough deliverables out of these creators that we need. So, the brand thinks, how do we want to secure these deliverables? So, we already know what we want. We already know how much we're willing to pay. How are we going to stretch this? So in this example, they're going to work with 3 creators who can promote the hotel on social media. So they want a creator who is not just pitching to them for UGC content, meaning that, oh, I just want to create content for you so you can use for your photo library. In this case, they're like, no, we want social media promotion. So if you can post this on your social media, you're golden. And they're looking for you to provide the brand with 4 to 5 content assets for organic social use. Basically, what this means is out of the social media content you create for the brand, can you provide them with 4 to 5 deliverables for them to use on their social media for organic purposes, meaning that they can only post it on their social media, and they cannot put this behind paid ads, or they cannot use this for public relations purposes, meaning if they wanted to do like an ad in a magazine or something like this, they can only use it for organic purposes. The reason why you want to always say organic is because if the brand wants to put paid ads behind your content, technically you are able to charge more. Now, that topic is a little bit more, I guess the word will be, it can get, it's a little bit, I don't want to say advanced because like it's not that difficult to understand, but it can really get complicated, okay? So for today, we're not going to jump into that. However, it's just always important to know that if a brand wants to use your content assets, and you're fine with that, that's cool. Just make sure it's only for organic usage. Okay, a couple other questions the brand is asking. Who have we worked with before? So brands really value the creators that they have worked with before and they exceeded their expectations during a past collaboration. Don't think that once you partner with a brand they had a great experience, they're just going to forget about you. No, they're definitely going to reach out to you in the future, and I even encourage you to reach out to them in the future. So when it comes to these campaigns, the first thing they're thinking about is, okay, who have we worked with before that we want to bring back? And then they ask themselves, who have our colleagues worked with before? So now they're looking around to see, hey, like I heard you did a campaign for that one hotel client. How did that go? Who did you work with? And they say, oh, I worked with such and she was amazing. You definitely have to work with her. That goes to show when you're partnering with these brands, make sure it's a great experience. And even if some things do come up and it doesn't, things always come up, especially with travel, right? We're all travelers. We know not every trip is going to go perfectly as planned. When things come up, feel free to like just nip it in the bud early with brands and just make sure that everyone feels good and aligned overall with the partnership and there's no like tension or bad blood there because that could potentially affect your chances of working with your colleagues in the future. And then another thing that they're asking is who has reached out to us in the past 3 to 6 months. So don't think that because you pitched to a brand 6 months ago and they never answered your email, they forgot about you. They are adding your information to their internal document. Every brand has for every brand it looks different. But they haven't forgot about you. They're likely going to reach back out to you if your brand is in alignment with theirs later on down the line when they have an opportunity to partner with you. Just a couple more questions, well, a few more questions that the brand is looking at on their side. They're looking at what creators consistently produce content within their industry. So this is what I always harp on. Consistency with content. If you take a week off, it's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. Brands are not going to penalize you for this. But when you're taking 6 months off, it looks like you're possibly on a social media, what do they call it? I guess a break. Like you're not engaging with your audience, so partnering with you doesn't really make sense. So they're looking for creators that produce consistent content in their industry. So we're talking about travel here. So either you're a straight up travel creator, everything you post is about travel, or travel is a component of your overall personal brand or lifestyle brand. It's just part of what you do. Maybe you also do fashion, wellness, and beauty. They're looking for those creators. They're also looking for the creators that have the audience type and size that they want to target. So the brand wants to work with creators, for example, we're going back to this example with the hotel in Puerto Escondido. The brand wants to work with creators with 3 to 20K followers. This is just what they're guessing. They're like, hey, our budget's small. We can't sit here and shoot for the stars with followers here. So we're going to aim on the lower end and we're going to pitch to some nano creators and some somewhat micro creators. But here's the thing, at least 50% of their audience has to be travelers because it wouldn't really make sense for us to just partner with anyone that doesn't have, an audience of travelers. How do brands find this out? Sometimes brands have a database on the back end where they're able to see like what percentage of your audience has an interest in travel. And for the brands who don't have a database, they just simply like will look through like your first 50 followers on your underneath your following list and they try to get a sense of like who are your followers and what they're about. And then the final thing they're asking is what's the creator's relationship with their audience? Is their audience engaged? So this is big. And this is kind of bummer because of everything that's going on with Instagram right now with engagement rates or whatnot. However, it goes beyond the engagement rates. It goes to the point to where the brands are looking in your comments. They want to know, are you genuinely having conversations with your followers? Are you responding to them, first of all? And then they also want to see like what is the quality of the comments that you're getting? So in this case, the brand definitely wants a creator that shares their travel recommendations with their audience and has at least a 3% engagement rate. I put 3% here because 3% is a good engagement rate for anyone that has between 3 and 20K followers. So I know that was a lot, but I wanted to go through that, of course, just so that you see all that is going into these campaigns on the brand side. There's a lot of different details and things that they look at in order to determine if a creator is great for their campaign. So I'm just going to check the chat, drop anything in that you have any questions on or that you thought was interesting or that you would like for me to further expand upon. And then we all look good in terms of recording. I am going to go ahead and continue on, but feel free to still drop any thoughts that you have within the comments because within the chat box, I always say comments, but within the chat box, because I'll go ahead and go back and address that for you. Okay, so for setting rates, we cannot talk about money without talking about mindset. It's just what it is because money is a very sensitive topic for just about everybody in its own way because it heavily depends on our livelihood. No one wants their livelihood threatened, right? So when it comes to money, we have to talk about mindsets. And I'm going to touch on this briefly because there's so much more to talk about when setting your rates. However, this is important to discuss in the beginning. So, first things first, I encourage you to just be curious. Do a little bit of like self awareness around the topic of money. Like just say money. Just say $1 million and just notice how like your body reacts to it. Do you all of a sudden get nervous? Do you all of a sudden feel some sense of unworthiness? I encourage you to take a look at your limiting beliefs around money and think about which one of those are no longer serving you and which ones you potentially need to let go of. So I put some examples here of things that we probably have all heard when we are growing up, but on a subconscious level, meaning on a level that you are not even, you can't even comprehend on a level that is present. So meaning like when you're sleeping or just like in the back of your head, these are the things that you are likely saying that you do not realize it. Money doesn't bring happiness. Well, okay, we can sit here and argue to the cows come home about if that's true or not. But the point of the matter is, people tend to comprehend this as I cannot use money to buy things that bring me happiness. Well, hey, we are a female community of travelers, and travel makes us damn happy. So we definitely use money to bring us happiness. Money rules all evil. Um, so this one basically is a very common one, and it is actually I believe it's money is the root of all evil. I have that so wrong. Anyways, I hope you get what I mean here. Um this one tends to make people think that people who have a lot of money are selfish, they're greedy, they don't think about others. So when it comes to opportunities where you get to make a lot of money, maybe like $1,000 with a brand deal, if that's considered a lot of money for you, you tend to have that thought of like, ooh, I don't know if I could accept that. Like, I'm not sure. And like you're not sure where it's coming from, but if you're being told that money is ruled by all evil or money is rooted in all evil while you're growing up, that could be potentially be why. More money, more problems. I heard this growing up all the time. And in some cases, it could be true. I mean, more money, more taxes you got to do. More money, more things that could potentially happen that are not always bad, right? But when you think this on a subconscious level, you tend to self sabotage when it comes to making money. I mean, we're all creators here. We all know that in order to make money in this industry, I mean, you don't only have to work with brands, but you have to sell something, right? So if you're not selling and you want to make money, there's some self-sabotaging going on there that's worth exploring. So a couple other things about mindset. Are you attaching your worth to how much you should charge? For example, do you believe that you're not worth $500, so you're charging lower? If you think that, oh, I don't know if I'm like worthy of getting paid $500 by this brand, maybe I should come down a little bit. Well, honey, it's not about what you're worthy of as a person. It's what your work is worthy of. Brands are paying for the work that you do. They're not paying for you. I mean, although they need to have you in order to have the work that you do, but essentially they're only paying for the blog posts or the reels that you're creating. They're not paying for you. And a lot of creators tend to attach their self-worth. Like, for example, I used to do this all the time. I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm priceless. You can't put a price tag on me." So, you from that perspective, you tend to charge super, super high rates, and you will get to a point to where you need to charge super high rates, but in the beginning, it doesn't necessarily make sense to always do that, and a lot of creators tend to do that because they're coming from a place of like, "Well, I'm priceless," or like, "Oh, well, I'm worth $1,000,000, so I need to charge brands $1,000,000." Atta Detach your worth, your own personal worth from the money, and think about how much your work, your experience, your followers, your engagement rate is actually worth. Are you asking to get paid, or are you avoiding the payment conversation with brands altogether? Creators, I've seen this happen too many times where it's like, okay, I'm negotiating with a brand, they're interested. Oh, but the money's conversation's coming up. I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what to say. And then all of a sudden you're like not responding to them, and you're just like sitting here like contemplating, you're not sure about it. Like, this is a sign of perhaps some limiting beliefs are coming up that are worth exploring. Just consider it. Examples can be taking on several barter deals. Like, I notice a lot of creators, especially in the beginning, they tend to take on a lot of, like, free exchange collaborations, meaning, like, the brand gives you something such as a free hotel stay and you give them content, and that's all that they're doing, and I'm just like, "Okay, when are we gonna start making money?" But they're like, "Oh, I wanna get a little bit of experience," and I'm like, "You're literally doing free work for months. You don't think you have enough experience?" Like, I get it if you wanna, like, take on maybe 1 or 2 or 3 at the max brand partnerships in the beginning just to get your feet wet, but if you're going on to do 5, 10, 20 brand partnerships completely for free, at some point, you have to draw the line. So, not asking brands for their budget is another thing. When discussing brand partnerships, you wanna ask a brand for their budget, and I'll dive into that a little bit further on. Now, I want to just quickly go through some of the industry standard rates for creators under 10K followers. These are the prices that I tend to see a lot um within the industry. And when I say industry standard, I mean literally the minimum you should be charging, because this is what brands are paying creators like it's nothing. Short form video. This can include a reel that's up to 60 seconds, or or a YouTube short, or a TikTok video, or what have you. The starting price could be 300. And when I say the starting price could be 300, I really recommend that this is the minimum that you're charging brands, like 300 and up. Unless the only time I would encourage you to charge less for your work is if, like, this is like a dream brand. Like, say, like, Emirates Airlines is like your dream brand. You're like, "Oh my gosh, if I could just fly with Emirates, I would just be like the happiest person in the whole wide world." And then all of a sudden you're negotiating with them, they're willing to pay you, but like the $300 for the reel is just not within their budget, and you're willing to like cut it down to 200, and they're aligned with 200. Go with the 200 and fly Emirates, honey. Go right ahead then. Especially if it's like a dream brand and you're like, "Oh, but I really, really want this." That's cool, but if it's not a dream brand, and I mean dream brand, like, there's of course, there's brands that we wanna work with, and then there's dream brands. The brands that we wanna work with, they need to accept our rates, but the dream brands, we may be able to see what we can do with them. So 300 for short form video, 150 for carousels, $25 per story frame. So, when you're on Instagram stories, each slide is $25 or more. Blog post 500, photography 50 to 75 per image, drone footage about 100 to 50 is a starting price for imagery, and then for video usually it starts at 800. Drone footage is probably the biggest money maker in the travel industry, because what travel brand doesn't want you to shoot beautiful content of them on your drone? So that one's a big money maker. Email, so if you have an email list and you send out email newsletters, starting price for something that's dedicated, meaning your email is all about the brand, is usually around 200. But if it's just a mention of the brand within a larger email newsletter, around $100 is a good thing to charge them. For YouTube videos, dedicated 800. For a mention, 400. Pinterest pins, $25 per pen. For podcast episodes, for a dedicated one, 500. For a mention, 250. For videography, starting price is usually between 1,000 and 1,500. Videography is another big money maker because, I mean, if you're a videographer here, you know all that goes into creating that type of content. So brands are willing to pay for it, definitely at a higher ticket. And then Facebook groups, a Facebook post can be about 100. So in terms of setting your rates, it's always good to have a starting rate for each of your deliverables. I say starting rates because the issue with fixed rates or flat fees, for an example, where you're just like, "Ugh, my reel's 250 and that's all." Like, doesn't matter if you want to put paid ads behind it. Doesn't matter if like you ask me to reshoot it after I spent 2 hours or maybe even in some cases 4 hours shooting it. It's 250 and that's it. Whenever you're quoting your rates to brands, I always recommend saying my reels, for an example, starts at 250. The keywords are starts at. So brands know that is 250 and up from there. It's not below 250, and sometimes it's not even 250. It's 250 and up from there. And that really gives you a lot of negotiation because I know that a lot of creators tend to like be nervous about telling brands their rates because they're like, "Oh, but I don't want to like not leave room for negotiation and a chance of me like getting paid more." Well, just tell them that it starts at 250 so that they can get an idea. Have a personal rate sheet for your eyes only. Keywords, your eyes only. I actually never recommend sending your rate sheet to brands. I see this a lot through like the pitches that I receive from creators for my hotel clients. And there's this thing, creators love to put their rates in their media kits. I personally don't recommend it. It could sometimes run a brand away, or it could just straight up not leave room for negotiation. Next thing you know, brands are just paying you the same amount for your content all day, every day for the till the end of time because you decided to put your rates in your media kit. And then I encourage you to review and update your rates every 6 months. So your follower count is going to grow. The time that it takes you to produce a deliverable might grow as well. You're going to gain more experience working with industry brands. This is all worth keeping in mind as you're setting your rates. So, about every 6 months it's good to go back and see, do I still feel aligned with charging 250 for my reels or do I feel like it's time for us to go for 300? So, some factors to help determine your base pricing, meaning this is the starting point. Creation. How long is it taking you to fully create a deliverable from creating it to editing it? How long does it take? Because a lot of people tend to not consider the editing part, okay? We know that editing could take a hot minute, so make sure you're charging for that. Promotion. How long does it take for you to not only create, edit, and post, but you still have to engage with it. You have to promote it on your stories in some cases. That all counts and should be considered when you're setting your rates. Production. Do you need to buy any props? Do you need to drive somewhere? Do you need to use gas to drive somewhere? Well, of course, you have to use gas to drive somewhere, so make sure you are charging for it. Do you need to hire a photographer? A lot of creators work with photographers. Charge your photographers fees within your rates. Timeline. Is it a longer campaign where the brand needs more deliverables, or is a short campaign where the brand's like, listen, we need these deliverables in 2 weeks? Okay, well, there's a rush fee. Make sure you're charging that rush fee. So these are like my top four recommendations for factors to just take into consideration when you are setting the base pricing. So to wrap things up, we're going to talk about negotiation. So these are my top three recommendations when it comes to negotiation. always quote the brand a rate higher than your base pricing. So if your reels start at 250 and the brand's like, "Hey, what are your rates?" and the brand's like, you know, there's brands where they're just like, "We don't want to say a number first," and I'm going to dive into that in a minute. But if you're in the situation where you have to say a number first, I always recommend quoting the brand something that is 20 to 40% higher than what your usual rate is. So if it's a reel and your reels usually start at 250, quote the brand 400 and just see what they say. You never know. They may just be like, "All right, that sounds good. We're going to send over the contract." And you're like, "Whoa, I just made an extra $150 and I didn't have to pull any teeth." But if you're sitting here saying 250, you think the brand's gonna go back and say, "Oh, well, we had $400 in mind." And nope, they're gonna save their 150 and probably spend it on another creator. So feel free to y- quote a little bit higher than your base just to see what they say. Mention your rates after the brand gauges interest. So a lot of creators tend to mention payment in their first pitch. I get it. You want to be transparent. Like if the brand can't pay you, why do we need to continue to do this whole back and forth thing over email? But the thing is that I tend to notice that the more the brand learns about your vision for the partnership, so the more that you guys are chatting about like what you have planned for the partnership, this is when they're willing to say, "All right, we're willing to put money behind this." Rather than you just reaching out and saying, "Oh, I'd love to create a reel about your hotel and here are my rates." They're like, "There's so many creators that want to create reels about our hotel. Why should we go for you?" Well, of course, because perhaps you may have the audience that they want to target and maybe they're just like, "All right, let's do it." But you want them to gauge interest. So you want them to respond and say, "Hey, we would love to further explore the opportunity of working together." And you respond and say, "Yeah, for the real, I would love to talk about how your hotel has three different restaurants. It's a diverse culinary scene. It really is a great way for foodies to come to your hotel and not feel like they need to leave the hotel in order to get a good meal." The brand is just like, "Oh, like I actually love that angle. Yeah, like we're down. We love that." You want to have opportunity to explain that. So I don't recommend mentioning your rate just so soon. And then as I mentioned before, break your rules for the dream brands. If you're like, "This is my dream brand, like I would love to partner with Toyota," because rental car companies also partner with travel creators. And Toyota's like, "We would love to work with you." And but they're just not like there's something there that you usually charge, or there's something there that usually you put in place with brands, but Toyota's just not able to make it work. But you're like, "You know what? This is my dream brand. It's all good." And feel free to do it. Don't feel ashamed and think that, "Oh my gosh, like my creator career is over because like I just told one brand my rates and maybe they're gonna go tell another brand." Like it's all good. Don't worry about that. It's your dream brand. Go for it. So I want to share this quick negotiation example to close us out. Just so you can get an idea, if you've never negotiated with a brand before, just so you can get an idea of how to handle a negotiation situation with the brand as a creator, because this is how brands handle them with you. So, the first thing that I encourage you to do is ask the brand what's their budget for the type of collaboration. Even if you're reaching out to the brand or the brand's reaching out to you, always ask them their budget first, because that's when you can really um learn what the brand has in mind to pay you. Now, in this case, the brand comes back to you and they say, "Well, how much do you charge for one reel?" They're not saying a number. You're like, "All right, fine. I'm happy to create one 60-second IG reel promoting your product for $1,000. The brand comes back to you and they're like, "Oh, unfortunately, $1,000 exceeds our budget. Would 750 be possible?" So you see, you're starting to get an idea of their budget here. The creator says, "I'm willing to make 750 work, but could it be a 45-second reel instead?" And the brand's like, "Yes, that works. We'll send over the contract." This is usually how the negotiation works. And it's great to get a sense of this Because at the end of the day, both parties are happy. The creator's fine with it because they wanted to create a reel for the brand, but they wanted to make sure they were getting fairly compensated. And the brand wants to work with the creator. They just want to make sure it's within their budget. Now, I just want to share some notes that I have. So I kind of walked you through this as I was talking about it, but here I just broke down why this is happening. So in this case, the creator doesn't want to say a number first because they want to leave room for negotiation. In this case, the brand doesn't want to say a number first, although they have budget in mind because they want to see how much the creator's rates are. Moving down, the creator typically charges 500 for one reel, but they're saying 1,000 here just to get a sense of what the brand's budget is. The brand gets an idea of what the creator's rates are because they said 1,000, but the brand proposes a number within their budget. The creator shortens the deliverable since the price is lower. The creator still wants to work with the brand. Of course, they still want to get paid, but they're like, hey, like I can't sit here and just like make a 60-second reel and think that they can just get away with this. So let's see if they're down for the 45-second reel. The brand doesn't mind how long the reel is, so they agree. They're like, okay, let's do this. So usually this is what each party is thinking, but this is what they're actually saying. So that's all about how to set your rates. Before we jump into Q&A, I do want to invite you to my next free live workshop series. It is going to be June 4th through the 6th at 7 p.m. EST. That is a Wednesday through Thursday, the first week of June. It's going to be all about how to get brands to pay you to travel in 2024. Each day, I'm breaking down the top things you need to know in order to land paid brand deals. In order to land brand deals and get paid to travel, I'm talking about everything from what kind of travel brands you should focus on, how to get their attention and pitch them effectively in a way that lands you the deal. So I will share the sign up link in the chat box, but in the meantime, feel free to drop any questions that you have around paid brand partnerships or working with any brands really on a paid basis, and I'll be happy to answer them. I am going to grab that link really quickly. Actually, let me stop sharing for 1 sec because I have to find it. You guys are a quiet crew. Any questions? Let me know. Happy to answer. All right, let me reshare. And then I will drop the sign up here. There you go. Casey says if you gained a following from another industry, but are starting to post more about travel, so your following is still primarily from the other industry, will that affect brands wanting to work with you for travel? Does that make sense? Yes, that does make sense. I'm curious to know what industry you are coming from because it really depends. In the situation of say you're coming from like the wellness industry, well, you can just pitch to wellness resorts and there you have it. Wellness resorts would love to partner with you if you already have an audience that's interested in that. Film industry. So the film industry, I would recommend a similar situation on how I just gave you that example about wellness. I would recommend pitching to hotels or destinations in general, so tourism boards where film is like a big part of what they do. So like when we think about film, like the first thing that comes to mind is LA, of course. Um, so that could be a destination that you pitch to or work with. There's also quite a few hotels that are really film driven. There's some hotels that even have like a theater or like a movie theater within their property, so that could be a great way for you to work with them to show like, oh, like this is a great way for my audience to like come to your hotel, have a nice staycation, and check out some new movies. So you have to get a little bit creative there, but I think that that's a great way for you to still be able to work with travel brands while you are, wait a second. Um, I'm sorry. I wasn't recording at 1 second. But it's a great way for you to work with brands while you're transitioning your audience over to be solely travel, or maybe you want to have both, you still want to keep your film audience and have a mixture of both film and travel. Of course. Happy to help. Any other questions? Feel free to type them as I'm talking because I just want to expand on what Casey said a little bit more. But basically, I've noticed and I'm still noticing that travel brands really like it when you kind of have a little bit more to bring to the table other than just travel. People, believe it or not, a lot of travel creators already have this, but they don't straight up say it. So, for example, one of the students that's inside my group coaching program, she does family travel, but she doesn't have in her bio like, oh, I'm a family traveler. I travel everywhere with my child or whatnot. But brands actually love that because travel is such a broad niche. It's like saying, oh, I'm a fashion creator. Well, what kind of fashion creator? So when you have like a bit of a not like a niche, but like when you have like another industry that you cater towards, it opens up a lot more unique opportunities to work with you. Shannon said, this has been super helpful. I really have no idea what the rates were in this space and what brands were considering in the process. Yes, I'm so glad this is helpful. Honestly, there is a lot that goes into this. And I feel like on the creator side, like just prior to being on the brand side, when I was only on the creator side, I felt like it was just difficult to find this type of information. And also it was just difficult to believe that brands have budget to pay you and that they want to work with you. Like on the creator side, it could sometimes feel like I'm begging this brand to work with me. When really like when creators pitch to brands, like we really look at it as this is helpful. Like this is great to know that there's a creator out there like you or like Casey, for an example, that has a film that has an audience that's interested in film, but also this is a creator that makes travel content. Like it's very helpful. Although, sometimes it may result in the brand not being able to work with you at the moment, just know that the more that you put yourself out there, the more opportunities that will come to you. What else? I know we're a little bit after the hour because we got a late start. I'm willing to stay for another 5 minutes, so feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat. And remember, this recording will be available underneath Wonderful's hub, creator hub, because as I mentioned, these slides are usually text heavier than what I usually do because we had a lot of numbers involved. So you'll be able to go back, take notes, and listen in for a second time um to digest everything because I know the first time around it could be a bit of a blur. What else? If you want to, of course, learn more about pay brand partnerships, feel free to sign up for the 3-day workshop. I'm really excited about it. It's coming up in June, so of course, like you have some time to digest what I just taught you and also come back for another round, a 3-day round at that. And then there will also be Q&As at the end of those workshops too. So a great opportunity for us to continue to chat more about your vision for working with brands on a paid basis. Any more questions? If you already asked a question and you want to ask a second one, don't feel like you're still in the spotlight. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for joining. You're welcome, Kat. Thank you for joining. So glad it was helpful, Christine. You're welcome, Casey. Alrighty. So since we're heading out, I will head on out too. And happy that it was a great opportunity for you to. You're welcome, Yvonne. Casey, I'm happy it was a great opportunity for you to get an idea of what current rates are, what creators are offering. Yeah, so glad that was helpful for you. So hopefully I'll see you guys on my 3-day workshop, or otherwise I'll catch you in the wonderful community, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Bye.